In Gear is brought to you in part by Boston Pizza, come and get it all, the Regina Automobile Dealers Association, and Kings Park Speedway, we're kicking asphalt.
Good evening once again, and welcome to another great edition of In Gear, the show that puts you in the driver's seat. Or as you're going to see on the topic tonight, the show that puts you in the racing driver's seat. Hi, I'm Garth Stone, and boy, we got another great show lined up tonight. We are going to be spending an awful lot of time talking racing. This has been a big, huge racing week. Plus, we are going to continue with Minivan Month with Test Drive. Tonight, the Dodge Caravan goes front and center. And you never know, our good buddy John Dulong might be paying us a visit before the night is out. Also want to remind you, as always, we're going to be making our way down to Boston Pizza at the end of tonight's program. We'll be down around 10:30 or so at the Boston Pizza location at 4657 Ray Street, right across the street from Southland Mall. If you want to talk cars, if you want to talk about In Gear, and hey, tonight, if you want to talk about racing, we would love for you to come and join us. And as you can tell, racing, I'm wearing my Kings Park Speedway racing shirt tonight. Racing season out there is not too long away from now. And as we sort of pan left a little bit, we're going to open things up. We're going to introduce our very special guest tonight, including one gentleman who is a very, very well-known name out of Kings Park Speedway. Drives the number 91 WBM Office Systems CASCAR Sportsman Racer. Joey Hattisbeck's with us. How you doing, Joe?
I'm good, Garth. Yourself?
I'm just wonderful, thank you. This has been an exciting racing weekend, Daytona 500. You and I are going to be chatting a lot about that as the night progresses. I would also like to introduce Darren Stettner from Stettner Automotive, who is with us. Darren, welcome to the show.
Nice to meet you.
Great to see you again. And you know, you've brought along something very, very nice, very, very trick, a beautiful snowmobile with lots of trophies down there. And I know one of the people who is behind this snowmobile, literally at the helm quite frequently, our good buddy from Barry's Automotive Adventures, Barry Davies. Barry, welcome to the show again.
You know, it's been a while since I've been here.
It has.
And,
we've missed you.
Well, you know what? I got a call yesterday and they said, where are you? And so here we are. And I hope you enjoy this. This is what we've been having a lot of fun with, Garth.
I know you have, and you've been bringing home some trophies. We had an opportunity to show some trophies from your very first race in the year 2000. That was, what, I guess the second, third week of February.
Yep, back at the watering hole. It wasn't all that long ago, Darren. No.
Darren, maybe you can tell us a little bit about this beautiful looking sled that we've got down here. First off, what is it? What sort of horsepower are we looking at? And what makes this a racing sled?
It's a 1995 Mach 1, 670. It's got about 160 horsepower. It's a legal improved stock racing sled. We do jump it up to 800 improved and do very well with it. It's been really good.
I'm guessing with a stick like Barry Davies on it,
yeah,
it doesn't even know it's carrying any load.
His feet are flying a few times on it. Yeah.
We've also, just so you know, Garth, we've also jumped it up again to the 1,000. And
wow.
Pete Lang was on it, who's done a phenomenal job from PL Performance, drove it last weekend. Knosy and Windthorst knocked everybody dead in the 1,000.
Wow. So it's been a good sled. I was over at Stettner Automotive not too long ago, getting a little bit of work done on my car, and I saw one of the tracks off. I'm guessing it was this sled. There wasn't much left of that track. It really gets chewed up.
No, they really take a beating, especially in the grass. When you move into grass racing, they really get chewed up.
So in the wintertime, mainly snow or ice?
Mostly snow.
Mostly snow?
Yeah. We're going to start dabbling into a little bit of ice. If Barry's into it. It's quite the ride on the snow, and the ice will be even that much faster.
Is there any special tricks to ice racing? Like a motorcycle ice racing, they put the spikes in the wheels. What about on the tracks here?
We pick the tracks, and the big problem then is trying to keep the front end on the ground from flipping over, because they make so much power, and the front end just wants to come off the ground. So
now I know before you had Barry behind the handlebars here, you did a little bit yourself. Is there any thrilling races that really remain in your mind?
There's lots of thrilling races, mostly in the test field.
Okay.
That's when you're out testing, and you're testing the chassis, and sometimes it gets pretty scary. You're off the back end, and you don't know what's going on. So most of my thrills have been in the test field, and I'm a little heavy to race, so I try to get the lighter guy on for the advantage.
Well, he certainly feels that bill. Barry, what about you? So far, you've had a lot of fun in the season.
Absolutely. It was a great thrill to come back. I hadn't raced since 1996, Garth, so you know, to be asked to come back and race again was phenomenal. To have the support we have, a great crew, Glenn Sally Racing, Stettner Performance Racing, we have High Pro Racing, PL Performance, Pete Lang, and then we also have Terry Denemy in there. All these guys, I don't do anything. All I do is race this sled. So the rest of it, these fellas, between races, between heats, they tear it down, they look at it, they make sure it works for a racer, which is what I like to do. And that's all I like to do. Once I get on the machine, all I have to do is concentrate and race. So the last thing I hear is Glenn Sally slap my helmet, and he yells at me, concentrate, concentrate, concentrate. And I get one more whap on the helmet, and then it's on to the line.
We've mentioned the name Glenn Solly a few times. For people who may not remember, you, of course, did one of your very first Barry's Automotive Adventure segments with Glenn, the propane-powered funny car. There's a lot of racing experience behind this sled between Glenn and Darren with this incredible sled, and of course the propane-powered funny car. A lot of racing experience.
Well, it's a pro mod, first of all, so I'll correct you here. It's a pro mod, not a funny car, and Glenn has been racing for, well, I think since Moses had something in his hand. Darren's been around about that long as well, and yeah, so they know what they're doing. It makes a racer's job a lot easier. When you only have to concentrate on one thing. If I had to go back into the pit area and be part of the crew that, pulls the cowling up, sits down, starts working on the engine, peering into, see how the cylinder heads are and things like that, you couldn't concentrate. With the rest of the crew, it becomes an easy job.
I've got to say, we've had a lot of fun. We've enjoyed Barry's Automotive Adventures so far. Tonight, you've got one with a little bit of a twist, though, because we are going to hit the white stuff. And this week, it's not Barry's Automotive Adventures, it's Sledheads. Let's go find out what that's all about. It's Sledheads right here on In Gear.
Welcome to Lifestyles of the Frozen Solid. This week we visit the famed Wascana Lake in Regina, Saskatchewan for the Waskimo Snow Drags. This non-sanctioned event draws hundreds of spectators and contestants from around the country. Together they bear the extreme sub-zero temperatures to race their snowmobiles down a quarter-mile of frozen lake surface. Call them eccentric if you will, but these sledheads know all too well the bone-chilling joy of a cold, hard, fast run. Our camera team caught up with the Stettner racing team at Nicky's Cafe early Saturday morning, fueling up for the day's events. And it's breakfast with the boys here before we get started. Terry, what are you eating this morning and why?
Well, I'm having my traditional steak and eggs that seems to become every Saturday annual event for us before we head off to the track.
Good stuff. Darren, looks like you're totally following suit here with the steak and eggs routine. Is this a cowboy lone on the range kind of deal, or what's this all about?
Lots of protein. Make it through the day.
Looks like Pete's going for the more traditional dead pig strips and chicken embryos here. I guess I ought to put the gas in your tank for today's events, eh, Pete?
I usually have the steak and eggs, but I haven't been winning, so I have to switch it up.
Boy, that's one load of toast. Davies, are you carbing up for today's events or what?
I got to tell you what, I had to beg to get breakfast here today. You guys are all worried I'm going to put on too much weight, and I don't know, if I can get through this, maybe, just maybe, I won't need duct tape to hold me down today.
What about you, Mr. Sally?
Yeah, I'm doing fine, just a regular meal with the boys.
And Randine, what's your secret, dear?
They always bring me along just to pay the bill, but I'm eating anyways.
Then it's on to Stettner Automotive, where we were met by Shadow, Leo, and Jolene. Back at the shop, Terry Denemy fills us in on pre-race procedures.
Okay, basically what we do in a nutshell is we try to transfer as much horsepower from the motor to the track. We do that through variation of clutches, gearing, suspension. That's what we tinker with. Determining factors matter: weight of the driver, belt size, modifications to the motor, such and such. Actually, two really good experts on that are Ronnie Schultz and Dion Irvine. They are the cream of the crop right now, and being able to figure out and transferring as much of that horsepower from the motor to the track. But we're giving them a run for their money. So on this particular one right here, Randy, we have, this is a 700 cc. This is a brand new one from SunWest Fort and Marine. PL Performance bought this one, and he's actually got it working very, very good. We found a few things that we made a few adjustments, and it's really picked up. Before race day, I guess what you want to do is you're going to determine your jetting for the day, colder or warmer. That's a very important thing. So we've established our jetting on this one already. And then we go out and take a look at the track. And track to us determines what type of cam you're going to use. Cam is a part of the secondary clutch, and different surfaces determine different cams. And I guess gearing also, but pretty well we've established our gearing way beforehand. In a nutshell, that's about it.
But it takes more than a highly tuned machine to win a race. Drivers must be extremely focused and outfitted for the intense wind chill which results at high speeds.
So what we're trying to do is it's so cold outside and our breath is going to be warm. We're trying to put a solution on here. What we're doing is putting a solution on here that hopefully won't fog, will prevent the fogging up of our visors. Put it on, wipe it real dry on the outside, put it on the inside, wipe it real dry, and that way we don't have to wear any gear that will obstruct our vision. And hopefully we'll be able to see the green light when we go and find the finish line at the top end.
And to make sure we make a fine photo finish, red tape is shrink wrapped to the front of the skis for visual identity. Now it's on to Regina's Wascana Lake and the Waskimo Snow Drags. The Stettner team tweaks and tunes the sled for a practice run. Co-sponsor Glenn Selly explains.
We're testing the track to see how the track conditions are, to see how much traction he actually has. Depends on the snow. If it's a nice hard pack, it'll launch hard. If it's too soft, it spins too much, so we have to tune the skidoo to that track.
Well, part of the problem we're having out here is the practice track is really bumpy and mogly, and there's a lot of ice underneath it, so we can't tell if the clutching's setting up properly for the run. We do know we're getting a lot of spin. That means I got to get over the front end real quick, but Darren's going to take it back out here again and see how the clutching's hooking up. So right now it's a guessing game. We think we got the front end figured out. Now we got to figure out the clutching. We may have to feather it off the start line with all this ice under here. That's going to make it real tough.
More tweaking and tuning, and the sled is running at optimum performance. It better be, because these fellows from Minnesota aren't here for the cabbage rolls and pierogies, baby.
So they're not serving food or anything here. What they're doing is they posted what's called the board, and that tells everybody what races are in, what lanes they're going to be in, and gives them a pretty good idea as to who they're up against at the front end of this race. Remember, no matter what class you're in, if you lose, you're gone in that class. It's all over. So your money's down, so are you. So they'd like to see who they're up against. Some of them are going to be smiling. Some of them will be grimacing. We'll see what happens out there on the track.
You bet we will, Barry. After a swift but stern debriefing of rules and regulations by event organizer Ben Popodenik, it's off to the starting positions. Okay, Barry, it's rock and roll time.
Barry, what do you figure?
Oh, we'll find out right now.
You gotta do it, brother.
Here we go.
Remember, concentrate. Concentrate, man.
The team limbers up the sled for the incredible jump off the line. A slap on the back lets Barry know everything is ready to roll for race number 1. Way to go! Barry brings the team a second place run on his first race. Now for his second. Oh, he's lost control. Barry Davies is down, ragdolling it for his second race. Pleased as punch? I think not. Now let's go to our instant replay.
Okay, it probably looked worse than it was, a little tumble, but what happened is hooked the ski out there, probably at about 55 miles an hour. No damage to the sled, no damage to me. We're out of that class, but hey, that's racing. We're still in a bunch of classes, and look out, we're still coming home on hardware. See you on the track.
Obviously unshaken by his nasty spill, Barry prepares for his third race of the day. Bravo! What a comeback! The Stettner team cuts a clean first place run. How were you that time, Barry?
That's better. That's better. The sleds running really, really good. Nothing wrong with that sled at all. It's we're going to compete hard in the finals. I think we're going to come home with some hardware.
We know you will, Barry, but we're out of time, so we bid our friends at Stettner Racing a fond farewell. I know we'll be seeing them again soon, though. For Lifestyles of the Frozen Solid, I'm Rob Lynn Bleach.
A lot of fun, and very much we want to say thank you to Roblyn Bleach for Lifestyles of the Cheap and Shameless. I've got to ask, what makes this sled hook up quite that way? That last run we saw, the sled in lane 2 looked like it was ahead of you, but you guys just shot right by.
Actually, I don't know. It's just the horsepower, and most of it's in the clutching. That's the tuner's game, is to try and out-clutch the next guy and get all the power to the track, and that's what seems to make it work. Lots of times track conditions will change that. If you're spinning as Barry was there, and then it gets a good hook halfway down the track, it just shoots. Actually, sometimes that might be an advantage too. If you come out spinning, when the track actually does reach traction, it'll just jar you forward. So you have to be ready for anything when you're driving this thing.
Joey, normally you're out there on 4 wheels. Would you like to do 2 skis and a track?
Well, I think that would be okay. I'd probably eat a little bit more. It looked like maybe you didn't eat quite enough that time, Barry. I'm not sure. Is there a preferred brand? You know, I've seen a little bit of the snowcross racing, and there's all the 4 sleds are there. Is there a preferred brand in the drag racing at all?
Yeah, there is. Skidoo is the preferred brand. It handles very, very well. It's a tough sled. It is one that, for a little driver like myself, it fits well, and that's part of it. You know, when you get into a stock car or a drag car, you want to fit right into it. For the racers, as you heard Darren say a little while ago, he's fairly large to be racing. This one fits a smaller racer. There are some bigger guys out there that are racing, but Skidoo is a tough machine. It's easy to fix. Yeah. It's inexpensive to fix, I think, at the same time. And the bottom line is that the performance of Skidoo right now is unbelievable.
I am guessing that there's probably somebody or a few people out there that might have some questions for you. So tell you what, we're going to put the phone key up right now. If you would like to call in, if you've got any questions for Barry about what it's like to go spinning down the ice without your sled, or if you've got any questions to Darren about what you can do to tweak up your own sled, maybe get into the sport of actually sled racing, give us a call right now, number 565-5376. We'd love to take your call. And once again, though, what an incredible looking sled. What is the real trick? Like, do you guys even think about things like fuel load? Do you carry, we know that in racing cars, a lot of times your fuel load is just enough to get you down. Do you control the weight by, there's one pass per load of fuel, or what?
It actually just depends on how the sled is hooking up. Sometimes lots of fuel over the middle of the sled can be an advantage or a disadvantage. So it all boils down to track conditions.
Track conditions?
Yeah, I just wait for whoever's driving, like Barry. He comes back and he knows his sled real well. He can tell me where it needs to be adjusted, if it needs more weight in the front, the back, or it's all up to Barry.
Well, and not just me. We have another great racer that performs on this, which is Pete Lang, and Pete's a little heavier than I am, and they readjust the sled to meet his weight and the way he races. Every racer is a little bit different. They handle the stock cars, drag sleds, snowcross sleds a little bit differently, but you're always in constant contact, which is what I said earlier. I'm a very spoiled racer in having Darren and Glenn, Terry Denemy, and Pete Lang. When Pete's not racing this one, he's working on it, and we're constantly talking. I think something that you asked earlier, and that is what makes this machine go. This particular machine go, it is finely tuned. 4 guys working on it, talking to each other, and finally telling me what I should expect when I hit the track. When it shifts about 80 to 100 feet out, if I'm not hanging on, I'll be like a kite.
Speaking of
we
that,
already saw that.
I think I know how, but you come off the sled, obviously it's going at 50, 60, 70 miles an hour. You guys are tethered on there, and does that shut the sled down completely, and that's what keeps it from
we're
going?
on a tether, so as you saw when I fell off, the sled kept on going, and it was shut off. It was completely shut off. It'll go as straight as it can. We're lucky it didn't tip over, but no, it's off at that stage of the game.
We've got somebody on the line here. Hi, welcome to In Gear. You're on the show.
Hi, I have a question. I have a 95 Summit 670, and I saw you guys have 2 cone filters on there. I was wondering, I obviously don't go skiing in the mountains all that much. Would I get more power if I took off the altitude compensator and put on 2 cone filters?
It all depends on what's done to your sled. If it's completely stock, I wouldn't recommend it. You probably get more performance with the airbox.
We have a 5500 stall clutch on it and a Rotax disc. The carbs are jetted a little differently. A little bigger track. I think that's about it, but would I benefit from that at all, or?
You might, but it'd be lots of tuning, especially in the wintertime. Mostly just on an all-out modified sled is when we remove the airbox or go to the K&N filters as you see on my sled. I would recommend keeping the airbox on for what you've told me about your machine.
All right, I hope that answers your question.
Yeah, thank you very much.
Thanks for the call.
Yep.
No, we didn't ask him how old his sled was. In sleds with warranties, if you make a modification like that, does that void it?
Well, anytime you modify, like for him telling me it's a 670, I believe the last year of the 670 in the Summit was 96.
So it's probably out of warranty now
Yeah.
anyway, so you can make the modification.
Yeah.
All right, we've got somebody else on line too. Hi, welcome to In Gear. Oh, we had somebody else on line too.
And who cares about warranty? It makes you go faster.
That's right. That's
all
what
that
counts.
matters. More
That's what counts. We're all wearing our racing gear tonight.
It's a little warm under the lights, I got to tell you.
It is. I can imagine. Yeah, you're over there bundled up like you're ready to hit the ice right now.
We've been overdressed for a couple of weeks, but just going back to your warranty, talk to your dealer. You know, if you're buying your sled for a specific purpose, if you decide you're going racing, talk to your dealer and let them know what you're doing when when you purchase that sled. You're spending thousands. Don't be surprised a little bit later on. You know what? Our major sponsor is SunWest Sport Marine, and they are very race orientated. They will talk to you. They will give you all the specific guidelines. You know, and make sure you have somebody that knows what they're doing when they're making the adjustments, so that there's no surprises. Again, we're very fortunate. Glenn Sally, Darren Stettner,
Got a lot
Terry
of
Denemy,
experience there.
yeah, all the way through, and so make sure you know what you're doing. Don't play games. You've got $5,000, $8,000, $9,000, $10,000, $13,000.
All right, we've got another call here, I do believe. Let's welcome somebody to the show. Hi, welcome to In Gear.
Oh.
Hi.
Yeah, I got a 670 HO. Doesn't want to go. What do I do, Darren?
You're being set up here, Darren. I know you are.
I think so. Well,
bring it in. We'll
yeah,
look
bring
at
it in. We'll look at it.
There you go.
Yeah, I don't know. The first thing I'd start on the HO is probably trying to get it to hook. That seems the biggest problem with that. Get traction out of it.
Oh, yeah.
And then go from there.
What kind of ramp should I use?
Depends what you're doing with it.
What are you
using
doing?
it for drag racing, or using it for trail riding, or
Drag racing.
drag racing?
Don't give him any secrets. I want to
I
win.
was going to say, this is a competitor here, isn't he? He's trying to get the secrets.
Yeah, we're being set up a little bit here, guys. And we knew this was going to happen, but you know what I would do? I would hook it up against the Mach here, and we'll see what happens.
Oh, no, that's a modified Mach.
Okay, so now we know he's not a direct competitor.
I would probably stay with the stock ramp, whatever it came with.
Stock ones?
Yeah.
All right, then.
All right,
Okay.
thanks for your call.
Yeah, bye.
Got another call here on line 2. Hi, welcome to In Gear.
Hi, how are you doing tonight?
I'm great, how are you?
Oh, good, good.
Thanks for watching the show. Have you got a question for the boys?
Yes, I do. We have an 82 Kawasaki 440 Invader, and we're wondering, it seems to do pretty good, just if you take it out and drag race, but we wonder if we have to do anything to that to actually get into drag racing.
Get into drag racing.
Now you're asking him to create competition for himself here.
Well, there's lots of things
It's an
you
older
can do.
machine. It's kind of hard to run, you know, like.
Track, first of all, I guess.
Track first. The first thing I would do is take it out and compete against someone that's in a similar class, another 440, that maybe you have a friend that races or somebody that you know, and see where it stands the way it is, and then make adjustments from there.
Okay, well, we've taken it out just, out around, about the city, and we've beaten like 95, 96 Polarises and stuff like that. So I don't know if we just happen to have a good machine or what, but it just seems to do really well, and I was just wondering if it would compete or if we need to do some kind of modifications to it or what.
My advice to you would be to take it to a race.
Okay.
And enter it.
See where you end up.
We have a great circuit. It's $20 to enter per class. Enter for your class and see where it stands.
Okay, well, great.
One of the things, if I can interject here, one of the things you might find out, and that's great advice, Darren, is when you're talking to the other racers, they will give you advice. If they'll watch you off the start line. If your track is not aggressive enough, they'll tell you. If they think that your motor is missing, they'll let you know. They're looking for good competition. But remember, every time you make a modification, you move up in class and it costs you a little more money.
Okay, well, great. Thank you so much.
Okay.
Thanks for the call.
Thanks. Bye-bye.
We've mentioned thousands of dollars to buy a sled. We've mentioned money to do modifications. Darren, maybe you don't want to let the cat out of the bag. I don't know what the sled would have started with. Just to pull a round figure, to be as competitive as you are, or anybody being as competitive as you guys are in your class, round figure, what do you think?
And this sled?
After breakfast?
Actually, to be honest, I'd probably have about $10,000 into this machine.
So there's a big investment there.
Yeah.
All right.
Most of it was put into the motor, as I did this year in clutching. I bought the sled used from a good friend of mine that did race it. And it did very well then, too. Scotty Pine used to own it, and it did really well. And I just went from there. My belief is probably to buy a used sled if you're going to get into racing.
Yeah.
And get used to it first and see which way you want to go before you make the big investment into the modifying it.
And if anybody wanted to maybe find out more about snowmobile racing, will they get a hold of you or just show up at a race or what?
Yeah, or phone me at my shop. I have a list of all the races for this year.
Okay.
Anybody interested is more than welcome to phone.
All right. Barry, anybody who's been out at Kings Park Speedway, Joey, you've heard this many, many times before. We all know that you cannot go racing without having some sponsors. Let's get a plug in for yours.
Well, let me do. SunWest, I think, has been very, very good to us with parts and making sure that we have the right racing outfits, helmets, and everything else that they've taken very good care of us. SunWest Sport Marine, Winnipeg Street, Stettner Automotive and Performance. I wear the letters proudly. Glen Sally Racing. 62 Cool, the station I work for, has been very, very accommodating, making sure that we're well publicized no matter where we go. I think we'd be really, really, I think we'd get killed if we didn't mention Terry Denemy and High Pro and PL Performance, Pete Lang, the alternate driver here, who did a phenomenal job this weekend, this past weekend, Kenosee and Windthorst. He came back with how many?
Four first
and
1 second place.
Yeah, 4 first and a second on this sled, and a weight difference and everything else. They had to retune the sled for the 2 different drivers. So we have some big time sponsors and some lining up to jump on board.
All right. Thank you so much for joining us tonight. Thanks for bringing in the sled and answering the questions. Darren Stettner from Stettner Performance and our good buddy Barry Davies from Barry's Automotive Adventures. We will be keeping everybody up to date with how things are going in the racing season for you this year. And Barry, we're also looking forward to more Barry's Automotive Adventures.
Well, we're going to have some fun. We got a couple of big time adventures coming up. We're going to investigate some hot rods and a little known museum that houses Model A's, Model T's, and plenty more. And it's going to shock you where it is.
Right on. I'm looking forward to seeing that. Gentlemen, once again, thanks for being with us. And you know what? As we mentioned, this has been a huge, monstrous week in the world of racing. Of course, Speed Week, the Super Bowl of stock car racing. The Daytona 500 happened just last Sunday. And coming up in a couple of minutes' time, well, Joey Hattersbeck and I, we are going to chat about the Daytona 500. We're going to chat about the Winston Cup circuit for the year 2000. We'll also talk a little bit about Kings Park Speedway and take your calls in reference to racing. But right now, I think it's time to hook back up with Minivan Month. And this week, we're taking a Dodge Caravan out on the road to see what we think about it and what you think about it. Tell you what, we're talking test drive right here on In Gear.
Well, here it is. The latest version of the one that started the whole minivan craze back in the 80s. It's the Dodge Grand Caravan, and it's our focus on test drive tonight. Needless to say, Dodge has had more time than the rest to put some polish on its product. And with their sister companies, Chrysler and Plymouth, have now put more than 8 million minivans on the road. In terms of ride comfort, fuel economy, and general overall style, that polish and experience shows. This is a nice-looking minivan, and believe me, having me say that about any minivan is something. Our test model was a Grand Caravan about middle of the line in terms of features, but like most makes of minivans, you can get your Caravan in many different configurations. Starting points include the base model front-wheel drive Caravan with a 3.0-liter V6 and go all the way up to the all-wheel drive Grand Caravan ES with a 3.8-liter V6 and auto-stick transmission. All Caravans, with the exception of the base model, come equipped with a driver's side passenger door. This extra door is almost standard across the minivan spectrum and is now considered by many to be a must-have. Why would you even ask me if I want an item? But before we open up that door, let's take a look up front. Although the Caravan is beginning to show its age for interior styling, this is still a well-laid-out cockpit. There's plenty of leg room, lots of shoulder room, relatively comfortable seats, and excellent visibility. The dash is well thought out with trouble and indicator lights well placed for easy viewing. And the gentle contours and slope of the dash panels make for a very unobtrusive and comfortable package. The center stack looks nice and sounds great with the Infinity sound system. Of course, that's an option. cruise controls are placed for convenience on the steering wheel. As for controls for windows, locks, and even the rear vents, you can find those within reach on the driver's door. Mirror and light controls can be found on the left dash panel. Now let's open that driver's side slider. It's your choice out back of twin bench seats or one row of captain's chairs and another bench out back. Whichever way you go, your rear bench helps haul the groceries with these easy and convenient bag holders. Then folds down easily to create even more cargo room. As with all minivans, more space is almost always desired. Sure, it's no problem hauling a foursome to the links, but you still need room for the clubs. With the Caravan, to create that space, the rear benches and, if needed, captain's chairs slide out easily with Dodge's Easy Out roller seats. That rear bench is a bit heavy, though. You might want a second person to lift it out. Dodge has provided power points up on the dash, but for a compressor or plug-in cooler, another one out back. All in all, how you want to equip your minivan is up to you and your needs, but it's nice to have so many options. As I mentioned earlier, the Caravan is, in my opinion anyway, a very nice-looking, well-sculpted minivan. The headlights are designed to fit the general contours of the front end and grille package, and the hood meets the grille seamlessly. Side view mirrors fit the look nicely, as do the 15-inch aluminum cast wheels on our test model. Depending on the Caravan you choose, your wheels can range from 14 to 17 inches. It's very obvious, like so much of the Dodge and Chrysler lineup these days, the designers had first crack at the Caravan, leaving the engineers instructions to leave the look alone, but make it all work together. Our impressions are that's just what they did. A base Caravan comes standard with a 3.0-liter V6, but other choices include the 3.3-liter V6 and my personal favorite, the 3.8-liter, pumping out enough ponies to get you by that motorhome on the highway with no trouble at all. For added fun and driving control, the Grand Caravan ES all-wheel drive gives you the auto-stick transmission for automatic ease and clutchless manual control. We should point out, there is a new Caravan coming down the pipes next year, and many industry experts say, typical of Dodge minivans, this new one will set the standard in minivan styling and safety. That's truly saying something, though, as there is plenty of competition in this market on the road right now. Dodge has led the way before. I guess only time will tell if they can once again meet all expectations. If you haven't driven one of the Caravans lately, pop by your local Dodge dealer and take one out for a spin. This week, our thanks to Ted Knight, Rick Purdy, and all the great staff at Crestview Chrysler for this week's demo.
Well-kept classic auto will age like fine wine, particularly if it's gold-plated. An auto lover in Kansas recently plated his, check this out, 1920 Pierce Arrow, plated it in gold and silver. It is now insured for a little over $1 million. That's a lot of money. Over 300 hours, by the way, to put that car together. Let's talk Auto World News right now. In case you missed it last night, Robbie Knievel made another historic jump. And unlike last year's jump over the Grand Canyon, this one went off without a hitch. Evel Knievel's son, Robbie, jumped a 214-foot moving train. And although he had a few problems getting the traction he needed at the beginning of his jump, he pulled off the jump and, even more importantly, the landing perfectly. Another one for the record books. 43rd running of the Super Bowl of stock car racing. The Daytona 500 took place last Sunday to officially launch the 2000-year Winston Cup season. And although it wasn't the most exciting Daytona in the world, well, my man Dale Jarrett pulled off the win, his third. The real story of the race proved to be Johnny Benson, who almost stole the win. He lost his ride last year, but thanks to great driving and a wonderful pit strategy, came within a lap of his first big win. Jarrett, by the way, hit a very big payday, $2,461,000 and $259 as well, just for added bonus. In industry news, analysts are closely watching the Canadian auto scene after news in 1999. Automotive investment in Canada dropped by more than 32%. Ford, GM, Daimler Chrysler, and other automakers who build cars in Canada spent $809 million on new plants and equipment in 1999, but that was down from $1.3 billion in 1998. Those in the know blame the slump not on a soft industry, but on plants making full use of their capabilities and maxing out their capacity. Almost all of the investment, by the way, did happen in Ontario. We love the Viper, We do love that car, and I guess if you can afford one, you can also afford the insurance. The U.S. Highway Loss Data Institute, a body of the U.S. insurance industry, has released a survey which states the Dodge Viper is currently the most expensive car to insure. The reason? The Viper's insurance claims are running on average 7 times higher than that of the average car. In the U.S., an average Viper insurance claim, $26,000. By the way, the vehicle with the lowest claims record stateside right now is a minivan, the Honda Odyssey. Finally tonight, gas prices making the news around the globe. The price of crude now stands over $30 US a barrel, and that means we pay more at the pump. As we all know, we've been digging into our wallets, but it's truckers who are really feeling it, and they're putting up a big fight. You've probably seen it in the news. Imagine putting 500 to 800 liters in your tank in a single fill and then having to do it again the next day. Now imagine for the price for that fuel close to doubling. Hikes like that are forcing some truckers off the road, and their anger is reaching a boiling point, to put it mildly. Over 100 trucks recently held up commercial traffic in New Brunswick, and they're now trying to force the issue with their respective governments. From a consumer standpoint, of course, if it costs the truckers more to move the goods, you and I can bet it's going to cost us an awful lot more to buy those goods. Let's hope that fuel prices are going to dwindle in the very, very near future. Let's talk racing. My buddy Joey Hattisbeck is over here. Joey, Daytona 500, we've seen more exciting races.
Yes, unfortunately we have. The week leading up to it was great. The truck race was great. A good race, as well as, of course, the accident, and we can talk about that a little bit.
The spectators love to watch the accidents. This one was a little too spectacular, I think.
It was. He got into the catch fence, and some of the debris got into the stands, but read a report the other day, everybody's okay. Jeff Bodine's doing better. He's out of the hospital. I think he's at home now. Couple of things broken, some sprains, but for those that saw the crash, it was just unbelievable. But not this time walked away, but a couple days later walked away.
Not too bad at all, and it really goes to show the safety in terms of the cages, all the safety gear that they wear as well. There really is, that's the primary concern in all forms of racing now.
Oh yes, I love my roll cage. People always ask me, aren't you afraid, aren't you scared in there? And no, that's not it at all. I've got my roll cage, I've got my fire suit on, I've got an onboard fire system. If there happens to be a fire, I hit a button, it goes off under the hood, in my driver's compartment, and in the trunk where the fuel cell is as well. So I feel comfortable, so I got no problem with it.
500 itself, like I said, it wasn't the most exciting race in the world. We almost had a pretty exciting finish with Johnny Benson and a very, very good pit strategy that worked out for him. I think he only took the two wheels, the two fresh tires on the last pit stop. But all in all, we didn't even see a lot of passing. Dale Jarrett had the pole, and he wound up winning, and he really wasn't back in the pack very much at all.
You know, the thing was with the restrictor plates, there's not a lot of passing a lot of the times, and unfortunately, most of the changes were in the pits. That's where the lead changes came from. And I'm going on record officially, last 5 laps, if there's a caution, they got to finish the race. I hate seeing it end under yellow. That was the ultimate lousy thing at the end, you know.
And we've seen that happen before, and I'm sort of with you. If the last lap is going to be under caution, I think we should be continuing to go around until the track is clear of debris and we can finish it under green. That's the way it should be. And as a matter of fact, that's the way we have it out at Kings Park Speedway. So if you want to see some exciting racing, of course, you come out and join us out there.
It's always a great time out there.
If you've got any questions about the Daytona 500, Winston Cup Circuit, or even Kings Park Speedway, give us a shout right now. The phone key's up again, 565-5376. We do want to take your calls. Of course, The Rock is coming up real soon. That one's always been one of my favorite races. We go from the 2.5-mile restrictor plate race. We should probably explain restrictor plate as well. Picture this. You go from blowing like that, that's basically your carburetor being wide open, to putting a plate right like that so no oxygen can get through. That's a restrictor plate, and it just sort of controls the amount of horsepower. Basically, all the cars are equal in horsepower. They're equal in speed. You only see maybe a mile and a half difference at the top level of the speed of the cars on a restrictor plate race. Now, that was, of course, Daytona, 2.5-mile track. The Rock, I think it's 1.25 miles,
so.
Something like that. And this one, no restrictor plate. You really see how the teams are going to shape up for 2000.
Yeah, it's a lot better. The restrictor plates, it's no fun whatsoever. The guys hate it as well. You know, you always hear them talking about, oh, we hate restrictor plate, we hate restrictor plate. I don't remember the car, but there was one, 30 laps, his foot was to the floor for 30 continuous laps. He did nothing but just sit there and go around.
Go for a ride.
And you know, most people think that's all we do in the car, but we do a little bit more than that. A little bit more than that. So, the Rock, I like the Rock. I love the short tracks, though. That's still my favorite. Bristol, that's my ultimate goal, is to get to Bristol, the night race, and of course that's a little way down the road. But and not because I like the banging and bumping, which happens a lot more on the short tracks, but it's just better racing. There's more passing, and it's just more fun.
Short tracks, 1/3 mile oval. It's called a paperclip track. Long straightaways, sharp turns. Of course, we're talking about Kings Park Speedway. Give us a driver's impression of what it's like driving that track.
Well, you go really, really fast, and then you stop. And you go around the corner, and then you go really, really fast again. It is a great track. I like it. We also race up at Bridge City Speedway in Saskatoon, which is a little more of an oval than Kings Park is. But there's 2 grooves here. Well, there's more like 1.5. There's that inside groove that a lot of the guys drive on, and then the outside. And it's really tough coming into those corners and pounding on the brakes and trying to get up into that inside groove. It makes it very interesting. And actually, there's 3 grooves. There's the Terry Becker groove up somewhere out on the far end.
He just creates his own groove. Doesn't matter where he's going around the track.
Exactly.
We've actually got somebody on the line here. Let's go see who is with us. Hi, welcome to In Gear.
Hi, how are you guys tonight?
I'm great. How are you?
Fantastic, thanks. We're just wondering, you know, if somebody wanted to get up into the different areas of racing, what would be a good starter class to start out in Saskatoon or Regina, or where would you go? Like,
well,
a dirt track, or would it be what?
Well, dirt track is okay, but it's I think if you want to really get into it, I think you want to get onto the pavement. A lot of the smaller towns, the Rose towns, the Outlooks, a lot of them have the dirt tracks, and not to take anything away from them, but I've only raced on pavement, so I can only really speak about that. I think here in Regina at Kings Park, the mini stock division is probably your best place to get into. Mini stock is basically, and I'm not in that division, so I can't say exactly. I believe it's 85 and older, smaller cars. They used to call it the import, or I refer to it as the import class, because it's a lot of Hondas, it's a lot of Volkswagens, but that's not the case. You could use a Mustang and you could use a smaller car, and it's an efficient way or a cost-effective way to get into the sport and to have a lot of fun. Up in Saskatoon, we used to have them here as the Thunderstock class, and it's the opposite. It's the rolling land yachts is what I like to call them. A lot of Impalas are used in that, and it's just a nice, inexpensive way to get in. A lot of the guys spend a lot of money on their mini stocks and on their Thunderstocks, but it's a great way to get in.
Right, so if you wanted to start in something like, well, what about the demolition? Like, is the demolition a good place to start?
The Enduro is a lot of fun. Are you going to learn a lot about racing in the Enduro?
You're going to learn a bit. You're going to learn building your car. Although you're maybe not worried too much about setup, you're definitely going to learn how to build your roll cage and put the car together well, and that's a big part of racing. The learning to drive the track comes later. You have to get the car built. And the Enduros are a great place to start. A good friend of mine has raced them for a number of years, has had a lot of fun, and now I've got him in my cast car. So I try and keep him away from the Enduros now so that he doesn't get back into that mindset of running into things when he's in the cast car.
Well, great. Thanks, guys. I appreciate it.
No problem.
Thanks.
Thanks for the call. You know, I should probably mention, we were talking about the mini stock. I don't know exactly what the reason is, but it seems like Volkswagen has got a very, very strong edge there. They even have to shift weighting to try and make the Volkswagens more fair to the rest of the field.
Well, and they've changed the rules this year. They've done a few things, and again, not my class, and I'm not exactly sure what they've changed, but they've tried to not so much bring the other cars or bring the Volkswagens back, but try and make the cars up a little bit, catch up to those Volkswagens and make it a little bit more interesting. Ashley and Cam were kind of walking away with it last year, and Paul as well. And it makes for no fun for the fans. It makes for no fun for the racers. So they're going to try and make the cars a little more competitive. It's going to be a great class this year. It's always been a great class. Don't get me wrong. I love to watch the mini stocks, but we got to get them a little tighter and get those Volkswagens caught up to, I think.
Your cast car sportsman, tell us a little bit about the number 91 car.
We've had it for, this will be our 4th year of racing. We bought it out of Calgary. Kim Richard's the gentleman up there. Cast Car Sportsman, for those that don't know, is basically, there's Cast Car, which is the Canadian equivalent to NASCAR. And Cast Car Sportsmen run at the local tracks. There's a Cast Car Sportsman division in Saskatoon and in Regina as well. And basically, they're not hand-me-downs, but that's kind of what they are. A Super Series driver builds a new car every couple of years, and then sportsman drivers go and they look for those cars, and they tune them down a little bit. We can only run a 2-barrel carburetor versus a 4-barrel that the Cast Car Super Series can run, and we have to use used tires. It helps keep our costs down, and it helps the Super Series drivers as well. they can sell some of their used product
They
down
can
to
recoup
us.
some of their costs.
Exactly, and then it builds up the class for the Super Series because we get all our practice and sportsmen, and then we move up to the Super Series.
Speaking of CASCAR Sportsman, we should point out that Paul Leitner, our good buddy who has been building that CASCAR Sportsman stock car for us, well, he's got himself a new shop. He had the shop a while ago, as we know, and he started building that CASCAR Sportsman for us. And then, unfortunately, the shop got leased out, so he's had to find a new location. And yes, Paul Leitner will be joining us and continuing to build that CASCAR Sportsman in the weeks to come. We're going to get back into that. One thing I wanted to point out, though, the CASCAR Sportsman division, that's probably the division that looks the closest to what we see in NASCAR, and we've got some of the vehicles up here. Maybe you can explain some of these ones. I know we've got Chad Little's car up right now.
Yeah, we've got a few of the die-cast. My girlfriend Joanne Morris has allowed me to take them out of the house this evening. Very carefully package them up.
Thank you, Joanne.
But I appreciate that. The Chad Little car is great. You can see it's got just a ton of detail. We've got a number of other ones. We've got Darrell Waltrip from last year. Darrell, of course, on his victory tour this year.
Yep.
Looking forward to seeing him hopefully pick up another one. Tony Stewart, we went by already. We've got the Square D car, Kenny Wallace. We've got Buckshock Jones, which is in the Busch Series, which is somewhat equivalent to the CASCAR Sportsman, or I guess we're equivalent to them. The one special one to me is the number 94. That's the inaugural car from the inaugural race of the Brickyard 400 that I got a chance to go to in 1994.
You were there live.
I was there at the Brickyard. Oh, I was in heaven. It was great.
One other vehicle that we do have up here that I wouldn't mind if we can get a shot of is Greg Moore's Players Light Indy car. What a tragic incident last year.
It was, and it's so unfortunate. Greg had such a promising career still going and was really coming on, jumped into the Indy cars and did phenomenal, and horrific crash.
A horrific crash.
Again, friends of mine asked, when I see something like that, why do I race? Now, obviously, I'm going 90, 100 miles an hour. Greg was going around 200 miles an hour, and I don't know exactly what went wrong, but just a horrific crash for those that saw it. And unfortunately, they're not in there as well as maybe we are in the stock cars. They've got a roll cage. They're very safe in there, but just at those speeds, it wasn't any good.
And you pointed out, people have asked you, why would you race after they see something like that, or going back to Gilles Villeneuve, or you know, there has been a lot of accidents over the years. Thankfully, not as many as one would expect when you talk about the speeds that are involved. But I don't think Greg Moore would have wanted to do anything else with his life. That's all that he has done since he was 4 years old when he started racing go-karts. 24 years old was his last race, but he enjoyed himself. He had a lot of fun.
No, that was exactly it. And, you know, after the crash on the weekend, Jeffrey Bodine will be back as soon as he possibly can.
Indeed.
Michael Waltrip had that big crash in the Busch race as well.
Yep.
Raced the next day.
Raced that afternoon, practiced that afternoon in the Winston Cup. I know a lot of people, when you're talking about NASCAR, a lot of people think about Ernie Irvin's crash from, what was it, 97, I believe, or 96 even, in Michigan in practice. And a lot of people weren't expecting him to come back. He was actually, I don't know if he was fully blind in one eye or had a glass eye or what, but he didn't have complete vision. He still passed all of the rules, and he was able to race. And he continued on until that crash last year. Now he sort of hung up the reins.
What was amazing, though, is I believe it was 98. He won that race in Michigan. So you have to go back. You have to go and face that, and I think it makes you a little bit stronger. I don't ever want to have the crash that makes me stronger. I'm happy with not running into things, but it's just a testament to those guys. They're true athletes. You know, a lot of people think they sit in the car and it's a drive for 4 hours. That's not it at all. You look at guys like Mark Martin. He works out all the time. He's in great shape, and it's just a testament to the drivers.
We're getting close to the end of the show, but how do things look for you for the NASCAR season? Where are your votes going? Can Dale Jarrett repeat as the champion?
After the last week, yes, I think he definitely can. And if I said anything different, I'd be stupid. But it's going to be a very good season. I think the Chevrolets are going to have to work on it a little bit. We saw in Daytona they weren't doing all that well. The Fords did well. I think Joe Gibbs' team is going to do well. I think Tony Stewart and Bobby Labonte are going to have a good year. I want to see Darrell Waltrip win a race, hopefully in his last one.
I would like to see that, yep.
Like to see Bill Elliott come back and have a good run this year. And it's going to be an interesting one.
It's going to be a very interesting season. Of course, Tony Stewart didn't start out the way he wanted to. He caught that tire in the front grille of his car as he was leaving pit lane, and that really messed up the aerodynamics of his car. He did well, considering.
Yeah, definitely. And then unfortunately, a little later as well, then ran into his crew member as well. So,
yeah.
But for my son Christopher, I hope that Bobby Labonte does well this year, because that's his guy as well as Jeff Gordon. I can't forget Jeff Gordon. My God.
You can't forget Jeff.
Well, no, exactly. And even my little guy. It's such a family sport, and I've influenced my child or my children to the extent that they're cheering for their own drivers now. I used to cheer for Jeff Gordon. Christopher now has Bobby Labonte. He likes Steve Park, and Riley likes Hot Wheels, so he's going for Kyle Petty.
I'm a big Dale Jarrett fan, have been for many, many years. My wife is a huge Dale Earnhardt fan. She'd like to see him hit victory lane more than a few times this year. And of course, we want to see you hit victory lane out at Kings Park Speedway. You're going to be racing all the races, I hope?
Yeah, we're going to be there the whole year this year. We hope to get to Saskatoon a few times as well. What we'd like to do is maybe even go back and forth a little bit, bring some of the guys from Saskatoon down. They've got about 15, 16 cars up there this year. We want to even set up a little challenge. A few years ago, there used to be the Bud Shootout in the province between the street stocks. Regina would go up to Saskatoon and vice versa, and would like to see something like that happen in the Cascar Sportsman. But we're going to be back, and we're going to give all those guys a run. The guys I race with are phenomenal. Paul Leitnauer has been a help since the day I bought the car. He was over and helping me out, and Craig and Perry were just great to race with last year. Watching them in front of me all the time. But all the guys that I race with, Mike and James and everybody, are just phenomenal.
They're a wonderful bunch of people out there. And you know, if you want to find out a little bit more about Kings Park Speedway, all you have to do is hit their website, www.kingsparkspeedway.com. Joey, thank you so much for being with us tonight.
Thanks very much, Garth.
You're going to come and join us at Boston Pizza?
I am so.
We've got a pizza and a pop with your name on it.
All right.
And don't forget as well, you can email us and tell us what you think about InGear. If you have any suggestions, or once again, if there's a special vehicle that you would like us to test drive, you can email us at this address. It is channel7@cableregina.com. Once again, that's our email, channel7@cableregina.com. The racing season out of Kings Park Speedway is not too far away, and we are going to also bring you that segment with John Dulong next week. Boston Pizza, 4657 Ray Street is where we're going, and we'll see you right back here next week on In Gear.
In Gear is brought to you in part by Boston Pizza. Come and get it all. The Regina Automobile Dealers Association. And Kings Park Speedway. We're kicking asphalt.
Well, it's not university or college for reading, writing, arithmetic. It's on to the automotive industry where repair...
Gary!